One of history's great villains, Herod the Great, is best known for his attempt to remove his rival, the King of the Jews, by ordering the execution of all male infants in Bethlehem shortly after the birth of Jesus Christ. Herod was a Roman puppet who was neither legitimate king of Judea, well liked by his people, or even genuinely Jewish, so he had every reason to be paranoid about the threats to his reign. However, there is theological New Testament dispute whether or not Herod actually ordered the massacre of babies as recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. Nor was Herod's reign all bad for the kingdom of Judea. The following depicts an additional version of the life and death of Herod the Great. As an Arabic group, the Edomites were not natural followers of the Jewish faith. However, large numbers of Edomites did convert to Judaism. Herod's father, Antipater, was one of them. However, his mother, Cyprus, was the daughter of a Nabatean noble of Petra. According to the code of Jewish law, to be considered a Jew, a child had to be born of a Jewish mother, which Herod was not. Even though Herod was a practicing Jew, he was considered an outsider. Herod became king of Judea in 37 BC. However, he was not Judean by birth. Herod was born in or around 72-73 BC in the kingdom of Edom. Edom was a neighbor of ancient Israel, occupying what is now southwest Jordan. According to legend, the Edomites were descendants of Esau, the eldest son of Isaac, and sold his birthright to his younger twin brother Jacob for a bowl of pottage. However, the God of Israel giveth Esau the land of Edom as compensation. Over time, Edom was often in conflict with Judea and sometimes subject to it. However, the Judeans always regarded the Edomites as foreigners. Herod's father, Antipater, owed his early power to his Maccabean connections and sponsorship by the Pharisees, a Jewish religious group composed of laymen and scribes who emerged as a distinct party after the Maccabean revolt of 165 to 160 BC. However, Antipater's big break came when he backed the Hasmonean prince Hyrcanus as a candidate to the throne of Judea. The Roman general Pompey also supported Hyrcanus and intervened on his behalf. Hyrcanus became king while Antipater acted as the power behind the throne. Antipater continued to court Roman support wisely, siding with Julius Caesar rather than his own ally Pompey during the Roman civil wars. As a reward, Caesar made Antipater a Roman citizen in 47 BC and appointed him governor of Judea. Caesar made Herod a Roman citizen at the same time as Antipater as an acknowledgement for his support. He also made the younger man governor of Galilee as an additional reward. In 44 BC, angry Judeans murdered Antipater while he was collecting silver demanded by Caesar's assassin, Cassius. Herod quickly sided with Mark Antony and Octavian after the defeat of Caesar's killers. Antony made Herod and his brother Paisial Tetrarchs, or rulers, a recorder of Judea. In 43 BC, Herod became the anarch or governor of Judea in his father's place. However, just 3 years later, when the Parthians invaded Judea, they removed Hyrcanus from the throne, replacing him with his nephew Antigonus. The pro-Roman Herod had no choice but to flee to Rome. Once in Rome, Herod busied himself making friends and influencing people. In addition to Mark Antony, he also won over the future emperor Augustus Caesar's heir Octavian and Octavian's great friend and ally Marcus Licinius Agrippa. It was through these influential friends that Herod finally managed to persuade the Roman Senate to support his cause, and in 40 BC presented Herod the title of King of the Jews. Herod, however, had to wait to take up his throne until 37 BC. Aided by the forces of Mark Antony, Herod finally took back Jerusalem from the Parthians and their puppet Antigonus. Herod did not gain the throne without suffering losses, specifically his elder brother Paisial. Paisial was noble and brave. When the Parthians invaded, rather than joining Herod, his mother and sister in their flight to Rome, Tarsila remained at the side of King Hyrcanus and fought to hold Jerusalem. The Parthians captured the pair and handed them over to the new king, Antigonus. Antigonus had his uncle mutilated to invalidate him for the Jewish high priesthood. Paschal was determined to escape this disgrace, so he committed suicide by dashing his brains out. Herod must have held Paschal in some high esteem, for he later honored his brother's memory by naming a new city, Pasacetus, after him, as well as a tower in his new palace. Mark Antony executed Antigonus shortly after the siege of Jerusalem, as he perceived that Herod's gratitude would make him a useful eastern ally, and that while he remained alive, Antigonus would remain a threat. Over the next few years, Herod also took steps of his own to ensure that no Hasmonean prince could claim the throne of Judea again. In 36 BC, he invited his foes and named Hyrcanus II back from exile to live as an honored guest at his court. That same year, he killed Hyrcanus' grandson, Aristobulus, and in 30 BC executed Hyrcanus himself. Herod knew that a reconquest of Judea with Roman backing was not going to be enough to win him the support of the Jewish people. So to win his reign and sense of legitimacy, in 37 BC, Herod married Marianne, a Hasmonean princess. Marianne's mother, daughter of the main former king Hyrcanus, had arranged the match as an insurance policy for the Hasmoneans. In 42 BC, however, the couple did not celebrate their marriage until Herod became king. Herod may not have just married Marianne for her family connections, for she was reportedly beautiful, and according to Josephus, Herod was in love with her. Marianne was not Herod's first wife. He initially married Doris or Sarah, a woman from Jerusalem. The pair had one son, Antipater. When he decided to marry Marianne, Herod did not just divorce Doris, he also exiled her. Once her and Marianne had sons, he sent Antipater to join his mother, allowing him to return to Jerusalem only for festivals. Herod's first family stayed banished until Marianne's death in 14 BC. First Antipater, then Doris, returned to Herod's side briefly before she was once again sent away due to court intrigues. Herod may have had a good reason for wiping out his male Hasmonean in-laws, for in 35 BC his mother-in-law Alexandra began to plot his replacement with her teenage son Aristobulus. Alexandra started by recruiting her daughter Marianne to help her persuade Herod to replace his high priest Hananiah with the 16-year-old Aristobulus. The new high priest was very popular with the public, much to Herod's alarm. However, when Alexandra approached Cleopatra and Mark Antony to win them over to Aristobulus' side, Herod had to act. He was so alarmed that Antony would shift his allegiance to his brother-in-law, he arranged for his servant to drown the teenager at a party at Jericho. Herod knew that Cleopatra hated him and coveted his territories, so when Antony summoned him to Egypt after the murder of Aristobulus, Herod believed there was a real possibility that his patron would execute him. Antony, however, spared him, and Herod stayed loyal to him when a civil war broke out between Antony and Augustus in 31 BC. When he realized he had backed the loser, however, Herod met with Augustus on Rhodes. He declared that he would show the same loyalty to Augustus that he had to Antony if Augustus continued to his rule. Herod then pledged troops to help finish Antony off. Antony's suicide negated the use of these forces. However, Augustus was a pragmatist who recognized Herod's usefulness as an ally in the East, particularly as Herod had just put down and revoked by the Nectarean Arabs. So, in 30 BC, Augustus confirmed Herod's position as king of Judea and added to his territories. In between disposing of inconvenient in-laws and shifting allegiances, Herod undertook a massive building program. In 31 BC, an earthquake devastated Judea, destroying buildings and killing thousands. Herod's response was not merely to replace the lost buildings, but to rebuild bigger and better in the hope of winning over his people. In Jerusalem, he constructed a new market, a theater, an amphitheater, and a new meeting hall for the Sanhedrin, as well as a new palace for himself. In 20 BC, he rebuilt the Temple of Jerusalem in opposite fashion, sticking strictly to Jewish law. However, the portion of Caesarea built on new territory seeped in by Augustus was his crowning achievement and a masterpiece of engineering and architecture. Before he began his public building program, Herod started strengthening Judea's defenses. He started rebuilding the fortifications in Jerusalem, constructing new city halls and a new citadel to guard the Temple of Jerusalem. Herod named the new fort the Antonia, after his patron Mark Antony. The Antonia aside, Herod also built a new fortress at Masada. The Romans tolerated Herod's fortifications because he had proved his worth policing the region, thereby supporting Roman policy. However, Herod's fortifications must have made them uneasy. They had no cause, for Herod stayed true to his allies. Despite his best efforts to improve the infrastructure of Judea, the Judean people detested Herod. This dislike was not merely because of his dubious Jewishness, for Herod had been popular enough when he was governor of Galilee, mainly because he actively chased the bandits plaguing the countryside. Nor was it because he had murdered most of the Hasmonean royal family. According to Josephus, the chief reason Herod was hated was due to his excessive taxation. Rates varied from 8.6% to 10.7%, and Herod allowed the use of violence to ensure collection of taxes in full. Ironically, taxes were high to enable Herod to finance the building program he so hoped would win him popularity. The Sanhedrin was the council of 71 rabbis who served as Judea's ecclesiastical judges. They also hated Herod. Sanhedrin enmity predated Herod's reign as king. While he was still a tetrarch, the council had reported Herod's brutality to Mark Antony. However, the Romans dismissed the charges. Once Herod became king, matters moved steadily worse. Herod could not be the high priest, but he could appoint them, so he chose men sympathetic to him. The high priest's dependence on Herod increased with the fact that the office was no longer for life, meaning they depended on Herod's goodwill to stay in office. While still, Herod shifted some of the Sanhedrin's powers to his royal court, which was increasingly populated by foreigners. Herod's Hellenism made his unpopularity worse. His childhood tutor, the Grecian Nicholas of Damascus, had instilled in Herod a love of Greek culture and philosophy. It was an admiration that Herod actively acted upon as king. He became a patron of the city of Athens and the Olympic Games, which he financed and presided over in 12 BC. Herod designed his port of Caesarea on Greek lines. He also had his currency designed incorporating a Greek legend, Herodotus, along with an incense burner on a tripod, a desperate attempt to show his consideration of Orthodox Jewish practice. It did not work. Most Judeans saw his love of Hellenism as another sign of their king's non-Jewishness. Plotting priests, relatives, and general discontent led to Herod becoming increasingly paranoid about his position as king. He began to employ more and more non-Jews in positions of trust, especially amongst those entrusted with his safety. Aside from foreign courtiers and advisors, the king had a personal guard of over 2,000 men composed of patricians, Germans, and a battalion of Celtics who once served Cleopatra. These foreign appointments may have made the king feel better. However, they did nothing to alleviate the growing resentment toward Herod and the population. So Herod set up a secret police force to root out plots and conspiracies. After the assassination of Aristobulus, Herod was called to Egypt to explain himself to Mark Antony. Fearful of death, he left his wife Marianne in the care of his uncle Joseph, with the express orders to kill her if Anthony executed him. Josephus told Marianne of Herod's intention, which left the young queen understandably bitter. Matters became worse when Herod's mother and sister, Salome, accused Marianne of adultery with Joseph. Herod believed his uncle would only betray the destinies of Marianne if he had designs on it, so he executed him but spared Marianne. However, over the years, Marianne's infamy grew so much that when Salome accused her of plotting to poison Herod, Herod believed it, so in 29 BC, Herod executed his once beloved wife. Marianne and Herod's sons, Alexander and Aristobulus, were brought up in Rome. In 7 BC, they returned to Judea, harboring a bitter resentment towards their father. The feeling was mutual. Herod resented the two young men because the people loved them, and their Hasmonean blood gave them a solid claim to the throne. By this time, Antipater, Herod's eldest son, had been recalled from exile. He now began to work against his brothers and convinced Herod that Alexander and Aristobulus were plotting his death. So in 7 BC, Herod had his two sons strangled in Sestabate, the place where he married Marianne, despite the protests of Emperor Augustus. So as for Antipater, he followed his brothers in 4 BC, and Herod had him executed for treason 5 days before his own death. Herod's most infamous crime is the massacre of the innocents in Bethlehem. On hearing of the birth of a rival, the king of the Jews, Herod, as paranoid as ever, ordered his soldiers to kill all male infants under the age of 2. The incident assured Herod a place in history. However, there is biblical dispute over whether or not this is true. Out of the 4 Gospels chronicling Christ's life, only St. Matthew mentions this event. Equally silent is Herod's outstanding biographer, historian Josephus. Herod also supposedly died in 4 BC, 4 years before Christ's supposed birth. Even if Christ was born in the last year of Herod's reign, as some historians believe, some now accept the fact that St. Matthew used or may have used Herod's murderous reputation to create a story to emphasize the significance of Christ's birth. Marianne endorsed aside, Herod married 10 times, which produced plenty of children to make up for the ones he murdered. The names of 2 of his wives are lost. 28 BC was a bumper year for wives, as Herod married a Samaritan woman named Malchus and a Jerusalem woman named Cleopatra. Herod's final batch of wives, Palpas, Phaedra, and Elpis, came in 16 BC and produced him only daughters. However, shortly after Marianne's death, Herod married another Marianne, the daughter of Simeon, a priest. Marianne II had a son, and also named before Herod divorced her in 6 BC. Out of all of Herod's children, from Malchus to Cleopatra, 3 of the boys, Ampus and Charius and Philip, managed to survive their father and inherit his kingdom. When he was 69, Herod the Great finally succumbed to a horrible affliction that became known as Herod's evil. The disease was so painful that Herod tried to commit suicide to escape the pain. The king's flesh was reportedly riddled with worms and had an intense itching, painful bowels, and convulsions plagued him. Gangrene also infested the king's genitals. It was a terrible way to die. Experts now believe that Herod was suffering from a number of ailments at once, including a kidney disease and 40 years gangrene that could have developed in the king's genitals, where a bowel and urinary infection spread to his groin. He was also probably suffering from some form of gonorrhea. You will never ever hear the actual life history of Herod the Great from most pastors' sermons, homilies. You will only hear brief lines from the Gospel of Matthew concerning the massacre of the holy innocents at Christmas time. Nothing about the afterlife of Herod, his sin marriage, and the murders of his wives, children, and other relatives, and a terrible, painful death of God in store upon him. The life of Herod the Great is something that is not generally taught in seminaries, nor will those that do not have formal theological, eschatological, educational training will ever be exposed to. Your narrator is Gregory Callaway, Master of Arts Business Administration, Holy Angels Catholic Church, Chicago, Illinois.